Hello everyone, CM Freeze here, and today I'm going to be doing a video that I've had planned out for a couple of days now, where I'm going to be giving my way too early 2024 NFL power rankings. So as you can see here, I put it in a tier list because this is the easiest way to do it without me having to do a bunch of work, but it is ranked in order. So I have the Chiefs as number 1, and I have the Carolina Panthers as at dead last at number 32. I thought I'd give you the full list right now, just so you guys can go over it. What I plan to do now is go over every single team and say exactly why I have them where they are. Initially, I'd like to say that it is June 18th of me recording this. The NFL season isn't even going to start for another almost 3 months now. It's early September, so not even for another 2.5 months. A lot of things can change. Trades can still happen. Big-time players can get injured, teams can overachieve, teams can underachieve. All I really have to go based off of is their current roster right now. I'm not going based off their schedule, because some teams have easier schedules than others, and their easier schedules will propel them into the playoffs. As you can notice, I don't have a single NFC South team in the Super Bowl contenders or in the playoff team bracket. I don't think they're good enough to be playoff teams, but because they're going to be having an easy record, and playing in an easy division, they're going to win more games than they should. I'm going 100% just solely based off their roster, off their depth chart, off their coaching staff. That is what I did all of my rankings on. Didn't do it on schedule or anything like that. This isn't me predicting every single game. This is me doing my power rankings based on the team at hand. So my first tier here, teams 1 through 7. These are the only 7 teams that I can honestly, truly see winning the Super Bowl. Maybe a team like the Packers could sneak in there. Maybe the Dolphins if Tua just magically gets better and that defense just upgrades itself. But realistically, these are the only 7 teams that I can see truly making the Super Bowl. Obviously, you got the back-to-back defending champions, Kansas City Chiefs. No reasons that they shouldn't be here at number 1. They got a little bit worse defensively, but they finally got Patrick Mahomes some weapons with both Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. They're going to have another dominant season. 49ers at second. Basically same exact thing as the Chiefs. They're running it back. Brandon Ayuk doesn't really seem to want to be there. He's crying on Instagram now to Jaden Daniels. We'll see what happens with that. But at the current time of me recording this, he's still on the team with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, plus Brock Purdy, who is an underrated quarterback. Ravens and Lions at 3 and 4, these were both the teams that lost in the championship round. Now, it might be a cop-out to have the first 4 teams be the 4 teams that made it to the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship, but none of them got worse. In fact, all of them in some regards got better. The Chiefs gave Mahomes weapons. I guess the 49ers kind of did the same, but they made it to the Super Bowl last year and didn't really lose anyone. I guess they lost Chase Young, but they got Leonard Floyd. The Ravens added Derrick Henry and Nate Wiggins in the draft, and the Lions went all in on defense in the draft, getting Terrion Arnold and Earnshaw Jr., 2 starting caliber. At least Terrion Arnold can start right away. Maybe Earnshaw needs to develop a little bit. The Lions also got, I think it's DJ Reader in free agency as well. So the Lions addressed big needs on defense. All 4 of these teams didn't get worse. They only got better. That's why they're here at the top 4. Eagles at 5. On paper, the Eagles have a good roster and they only got better. On offense, they upgraded by getting Saquon Barkley, one of the best running backs in the league. Yes, they did lose center Jason Kelce, so we're going to see how that impacts them because they did lose Jason Kelce, one of the best centers of all time. You still got Jalen Hurts, still got Dallas Goedert, still got A.J. Brown, top 5 wide receiver, still got Devontae Smith. Really good wide receiver, too, to complement that team. And defensively, you got better. In the draft, you got both Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, 2 really damn good safeties. Seems like the rich only get richer. Both the Lions and the Eagles, 2 teams that had really good offenses but needed help in the secondary, got 2 really good players in the secondary in the draft. Kind of unbelievable how they did it. Texans at 6, they might as well have had the best offseason out of anyone. First, they traded for Stephon Diggs, and now they have arguably the best wide receiver trio in the NFL currently, with Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. That's going to be so damn lethal. Plus Dalton Schultz, who's an underrated tight end, and they went out and got Joe Mixon, so offensively they're stacked. Defensively, they went out and they got Danielle Hunter to pair him with Will Anderson Jr. So Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter are going to be an absolutely lethal combo on the edge. That front seven's kind of crazy there. The only real weakness, I guess, that the Texans could have would maybe be linebacker, but their linebackers are also good too. Their team is really loaded. If CJ Stroud can take another step up, because while he was really damn good his rookie year, he still needs to elevate his game. How he played his rookie year is not good enough to win a Super Bowl. Really damn good. He played really damn good, but some other quarterbacks play better than him. Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow when he's still healthy, Lamar Jackson. If CJ Stroud wants to get into that level of elite, he's really good, but if he wants to get into elite, he needs to take a step up. Finally, Bengals at 7. Joe Burrow was hurt last year, and Jamar Chase was banged up last year, and T. Higgins was banged up last year, and even with all their best players banged up, they still went 9-8. That Bengals defense is pretty good, and they went and they got it's not Geno Smith. They got the free safety, Geno Stone, from the Ravens, so their secondary is very young, very elite, very good edge rusher still. Their defensive line did take a hit with losing DJ Reader, but offensively you're getting back Joe Burrow, still have Jamar Chase, still have T. Higgins, got upgrades on the offensive line. This Bengals team, I believe, can run it back to the Super Bowl if their entire team stays healthy and that offensive line protects Joe Burrow. Next category is the playoff teams. As you know, there are 14 playoff teams, so these are teams 8 through 14, the teams that I believe will make it to the playoffs or have a really good shot at making it into the playoffs. So like I said before, obviously an NFC South team has to make it into the playoffs as well. Team 8 here, I got the Browns. Honestly, biggest thing holding them back is quarterback play. I think if there was actually a true definition of a team that's a quarterback away, it could very likely be the Browns. Deshaun Watson has not been like himself at all recently. He is nowhere near coming to be the quarterback that he was. Defense is legit. Nick Chubb's coming off another massive injury, so we'll see how that affects the Browns offensively. Actually, we'll set the see. The Browns defense is legit, but offensively, I don't expect the quarterback play to be what it is. I don't think you're having a Joe Flacco Hail Mary coming out of nowhere to save your offense like he did last year. Packers at 9. Packers were a really good team last year. Jordan Love, we'll see if he was a one-year wonder or if he's legit. Jordan Love at times looked great. At times, looked like shit. He is a true Brett Favre. he could be the next Brett Favre, where he has some really high highs, but some really low lows. I look at that game against the 49ers in the divisional round, where he had a game-winning drive, and he threw a terrible interception on that game-winning drive. He could have had it all. He could have led him to the NFC Championship game, but instead he threw a terrible interception that was 100% his fault. Defense, that Packers defense, we'll see how much better it got. It had some high highs and some low lows. The Packers team last year had a ton of high highs and a ton of low lows. We'll have to see if they can erase those lows and turn them into highs. I don't really know where to put this Packers team, honestly. I think 9 here is a really good spot. Really good team, just with how many bad games they had last year and with not too many improvements. You're really just banking on developing all your young talent. The Packers are one of the youngest teams in the NFL. A lot of young talent. Can that young talent develop? We'll have to see. Cowboys at 10. You already know that they're not making it past the divisional round. It's just death taxes and the Cowboys not being able to make it out of the divisional round. Arguably, they got worse. They lost Dan Quinn, who at times their defense looked great. The Dallas Cowboys, I honestly truly believe, are the Philadelphia 76ers of football, where they beat up really, really, really bad teams and make them look silly. And then against good teams, they just aren't good. Cowboys last year, 9-0 at home, or maybe 8-0 at home, and then like 3-6 on the road. Until the playoffs, when they got absolutely smoked by the Packers in the playoffs. Dak Prescott wants a big contract. CeeDee Lamb wants a big contract. We'll have to see with the Cowboys. They didn't really upgrade. They didn't really go sign any big free agents. I guess they got a little bit better in the draft, but don't expect the Cowboys to do anything crazy. But they'll still make the playoffs. They play the Washington Commanders and the Giants twice a year. You know, that's 4 wins right there. Next, we got the Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Rams. 2 teams who I think are incredibly similar. And if you look at it statistically, they are. These teams were the 6 seeds in... The Rams were the 6th seed for the NFC. The Dolphins were the 6th seed for the AFC. Both lost to teams that went on to either win the Super Bowl or make it to the NFC conference game with the Lions. I think they're so similar teams. The Rams, they lost Aaron Donald, and the Miami Dolphins lost Christian Wilkinson, so both teams lost their best defensive player. Obviously, Aaron Donald is a lot better than Christian Wilkinson, but that's not a knock on Christian Wilkinson at all. Aaron Donald being arguably one of the best defenders of all time, him needing to be triple teamed every single time. The Rams truly tried to replace him in the draft by getting both Jared Verse and Brian Fisk in the first and second round. Dolphins went out and got Chop Robinson. So many similarities between these teams. They lose their best pass rusher defensively, and in the draft try to replace him. We'll see what happens with these teams. I still expect them to be in the playoffs. Tua is a really good quarterback, but it seems like he's kind of hit his ceiling. Will he ever be that great quarterback? Arguably not. He probably has already reached his high. He's a great quarterback and all, but will he ever be able to win you a Super Bowl is the real question. And then Jaguars at 14. Or 13. Jaguars at 13, excuse me. Dude, I don't know what it is about the Jaguars, but I just don't trust them. After seeing that late season collapse where I think they had a 99% chance of making it to the playoffs, what were they? 8-3, 9-3, and then you lose 6 straight to go 9-8. It was something like that, or they either went 8-9 or 9-8, but they were 8-3 or 9-3 and then lost every single game. 99% chance to make it to the playoffs, just had to win one game and absolutely blew it. Trevor Lawrence looked like shit, so to compensate for that, they made him the highest paid player in NFL history. Only after 3 years too, and you only had one decent year with him. I don't know, man. Jaguars, though, have a great roster. They did lose Calvin Ridley, but in the draft they got Brian Thomas Jr. They still have Christian Kirk, a very underrated wide receiver. They also got Gabe Davis as well. Travis Etienne, top 10 running back in the league. They also have a really good offense. Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen. Defense, I mean. So we'll have to see what happens with this Jacksonville Jaguars team. I really like their front seven. Their secondary could use some work. That's definitely their big weakness, is that secondary. They're in a tough division with the Texans and Colts, man. So we'll see. I guess it really depends on Trevor Lawrence for me. But I still have him here in the playoff team. I think their roster is too good not to make the playoffs again. And if they have another horrendous choke like they did last season, people got to go. Now, this might look like a lot of teams in the 8-9 and 9-8 column. But I would like to point out that last season there were a total of 9 teams that went 8-9 or 9 or 8. This is basically average. This is your average tier. There's a lot of average teams in the NFL right now, and every single team in this tier, you could convince me, needs to belong higher up. Hell, even you can even give me an argument that the Bears deserve to be at the top of this at number 14. That's how, like, it's one game. It's literally one game. It's one play. It's one bad interception. One missed field goal that is making a team go from 8-9 to 9-8, or even in the playoffs. All the time you see it. NFL is a game of inches. We hear it all the time. This is the tier where it's literally one play or one game that would make them be number 14 to number 23 in like terms of their draft ranking or power ranking. I got the Colts here at 14. Just like the Jaguars, something just feels off to me about the Colts. Anthony Richardson only got to play in 4 games. Then he got hurt with injuries. And yes, he looked good in those 4 games. But the fact of the matter is he took some big hits in those 4 games. And he was doing a lot with his legs. And then he got hurt already. It wasn't really his arm that was impressing us. It was his legs and his ability to keep a play going. So if he constantly does that, and that's his big thing, and he stay healthy, it's a real genuine concern. Defensively, the Colts still have some issues in the secondary. I really like their front 7. I like their linebacker core. Obviously, DeForest Buckner's a beast. Kwity Paye's a beast. They have some issues in the secondary. Remember last season, the Colts, their playoff hopes came down to the last season when their defender couldn't make a play. I guess their running back also dropped a pass too from Gardner Minshew as well, but they wouldn't have been in that situation if their defense could have actually made stops. The Colts are a tough team for me. I again think they're going to be in another situation where they are a game away from making the playoffs. Or maybe this time they win the game and they sneak in as a wild card spot. But that's the best I can see this Colts doing at number 14. Buffalo at 15, man. The Buffalo Bills did a hard reset. They had a lot of old players, especially on that defense, and they cut them all. Tre'Davious White, gone. Matt Milano. Maybe he's actually still there. I don't know why I said his name next. Micah Hyde, gone. Jordan Poyer, gone. Jermaine Edwards, I know that was 2 years ago, gone. That defense is hitting a hard reset. They still have Ed Oliver. They still have AJ Espinoza on that defensive line, so the defensive line still looks good. That secondary took a massive, massive hit, and you just can't ignore that. Offensively, they lost their two best weapons in Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Now all they have is Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, and Dalton Kincaid. Also, Knox as well. Josh Allen is having some weapon issues. Who's his true number one on that team? Are you going to tell me that Dalton Kincaid is his true number one, and if a second-year tight end is your best target, you got issues. Yes, they still have James Cook, so they have a ton of young offensive weapons there. Are they going to click with Josh Allen? Who knows? This Bills team, I've seen a lot of people say, well, Josh Allen's still on the team, and when there's Josh Allen, you still trust him. Look at Justin Herbert with the Chargers. Justin Herbert is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and he plays lights-out football. He gets 30 points a game, but his defense sucks ass, so he loses a ton. And he had bad coaching. I guess the Buffalo Bills have a winning culture there. You know, they hate to lose. Teamwork there in Buffalo. But it doesn't matter how many points Josh Allen puts up if his weapons suck. Or look at Herbert last year with his crappy weapons that couldn't catch anything. It doesn't matter how good of a play you make as a quarterback if your offensive line gives you no time, your weapons don't make a catch, your defense doesn't get stops. We'll really see how the Buffalo Bills are. Because Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback, I'm putting them at 15, but they could be worse. They could be worse. And like I said, this is truly power rankings, so yeah, they get lucky. They play the Jets twice a week, or twice a year, Patriots twice a year. This Buffalo Bills team's going to be interesting, man. Then Falcons at Saints at 16 and 17. They're right neck and neck to me. Here's how I think the Falcons and Saints are going to go this year. They are going to play each other twice, obviously. They're going to split 1-1. Home team will win. In the division, they'll probably be the same as well. I think it'll come down to some weird-ass tiebreaker. Probably like their NFC record. You know, one of these teams will lose to, I don't know, like the Commanders or something. And that's going to be the make or break of these teams. I could see both these teams finishing 9-8. Honestly, I think both the Falcons and Saints have 9-8 potential. Like I said, they're going to split their head-to-head against each other. Arguably, both could go 4-2 or 3-3 in the division. So it's going to come down to some weird-ass tiebreaker like, oh, the Falcons lost the Packers and the Saints beat the Packers. That's how similar they are. Falcons have a better offense than the Saints, but the Saints have a better defense. Falcons defensively did jack shit. They are truly going back to their Matt Ryan era, where they have a great offense and a trash defense. But unlike the Matt Ryan era, Matt Ryan's better than Kirk Cousins. Fight me on it. Julio Jones is better than any Falcons target that they have currently. Roddy White is better than any Falcons target they have currently. Tony Gonzalez is better than any Falcons target they got currently. Their offensive lines may be better. They have Bijan Robinson. So we'll see what happens. So we have the Falcons going to their Matt Ryan era with a worse offense than the offenses they had with Matt Ryan. So I truly believe this Falcons team is 8-9 or 9-8. Like I said, I think 9-8 because they have their really easy schedule. But again, I'm going just based on their depth chart, power rankings. Pretty solid offense, really good offense. Kirk Cousins, ton of weapons, but that defense, man, really holds him back. Then you got the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are weird, man. Honestly, looking at this right now, you could convince me that the Seahawks need to be above the Falcons, Saints, and the Bills. Reason of putting him there? Geno Smith. I'm not big on Geno Smith. He had a great year last year, but towards the end of the season, not last year, year before that, 2022. 2022, when Geno Smith had his big year for the Seahawks, he looked really good for about the first 11, 12 games, but no one really talks about his fall-off that he had, like the last 5 games of the season, and then he kind of continued that fall-off in 2023. Still playing above average, but Kirk Cousins, Josh Allen, and I would even say Derek Carr. I'd rather have Derek Carr than Geno Smith. And if you want to say, well, Geno Smith had one good year, great. Awesome. Geno Smith and Derek Carr have the same amount of playoff wins. You want to know how many that is? Yeah, exactly. I don't trust Geno Smith. Yes, the Seahawks have a lot of young offensive talents there. We'll see if Geno Smith can use them. Defensively, the Seahawks are interesting as well. I really like that they brought in the Ravens defensive coordinator. I think that he can help out that young defense, but that defense looked bad at times last year. We'll really have to see if he can help them out. Jets, most overrated team in the league for me. Can't stand the Jets. I want to make my own video on the Jets eventually, but I don't like the Jets at all. Defense is great. Offense is overrated as hell. Jets will be an 8-9 team. And then Steelers and Bears, I honestly was tough. Steelers, Bears, Bucks, Raiders. Those 4 teams, I could either see them being in the 8-9 or the below average tier. I just decided to split it up 2 and 2, but I decided to go Steelers at 20, Bears at 21, Bucks 22, Raiders 23. Steelers and the Raiders are both very similar teams. Both have very good defense. Well, the Steelers have a great defense, but offensively, they got Russell Wilson or Justin Fields at quarterback. And who is he going to throw to? Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens. Not too much behind that. And then Najee Harris, who's such an interesting case at running back. And then offensively, they beefed up their offensive line, getting a first and second round draft pick towards their offensive line, which I like. But it's still 2 rookies starting on your offensive line. They're going to have growing pains. Then the Bears here have no clue what to do with the Bears. No clue what to do with the Bears. Obviously, it all depends on Caleb Williams. And that young defense. That young defense has so much talent around it. I love that they brought in Montez Sweat, and then they signed Kevin Byard as well to be veterans on that young defense. I think that defense can be underrated and actually a really good defense. And then offensively, how well does Caleb Williams do? He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. The Bears have never had a good quarterback, and at the end of the day, it is the Bears. I don't care how good of a prospect Caleb Williams it is. It's still the Bears. They've had the worst QBs in NFL history. Then we get to the below average tiers with the Bucks at 22. I really wanted to put the Bucks in 8-9 or 9-8. Maybe because it would have screwed up with how this all looked and like my camera. I put the Bucks in below average. You could convince me to put the Bucks in 8-9. The Bucks last year did go 9-8, but they only got worse. They didn't upgrade offensively, and they lost some key pieces on that defense like Shaquille Barrett. So they got worse. They didn't get better. They didn't really get many upgrades. They got a rookie center in the first round of the draft. Mike Evans is only getting older. They lost their offensive coordinator that really resonated well with Baker Mayfield, so let's see how that offense does. I just don't trust the Bucks. They got worse and they went 9-8 last year. You know? Raiders. And the Raiders have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, and then if Tyrese Wilson can break out in year 2, that's going to be absolutely scary. Behind that, though, the rest of their defense sucks. Meh linebackers, but not a good secondary whatsoever, and they just failed to address that in the draft. And then offensively, they had Devontae Adams, who I love. They got Brock Bowers, who's going to be a great tight end for them, but they got a tight end when they have a bad offensive line. I truly think the Raiders were probably going to take a quarterback, but then literally 6 quarterbacks got drafted ahead of them, so they said, fuck it, let's draft best player available, and that was Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is a great player, don't get me wrong. I think he's going to do really well for the Raiders, and I think they're going to use him like Travis Kelce. I truly do. I think Michael Mayer's going to be more of your blocking tight end, where Brock Bowers is going to line up arguably in the slot or in your X a lot. I don't think he's going to be blocking a lot for the Raiders. Probably the biggest surprise that I think everyone is going to have here is the Minnesota Vikings being as low as they are. And for anyone who's looking at the Vikings and like, how the hell are the Vikings this low? How are the Vikings 24? Let me tell you something. Everyone's saying this because the Vikings have Justin Jefferson. Well, Justin Jefferson's a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. That's very true. He's also had Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball. He's now going to have either Sam Darnold or rookie J.J. McCarthy, who's already holding out and not even practicing with Justin Jefferson right now because he wants big money. Yeah. Sam Darnold is going to be Justin Jefferson's new #1 target. And who knows how good Sam... I mean, Justin Jefferson can only be as good as the quarterback that is throwing him the ball. And then let's not even talk about the offense. Let's shift to the defense. Dallas Turner was just drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, I think 17th overall, and he arguably is already their best defender. And he hasn't even played a single snap for him. That defense is straight trash. They have Byron Murphy, who I really like, a corner from Arizona. I think they still have Harrison Smith. I don't even know how he's still in the league. He's like 30. He's like 50 now. That defense sucks, dude. That defense is absolute garbage. So let's say hypothetically that JJ McCarthy is good for the Vikings. Again, same exact thing with the Chargers and with the Bills. Doesn't matter how good your offense and how good your quarterback play is if your defense is allowing 30 points a game. The Vikings are going to suck. The Vikings are truly going to suck. Their defense is a bottom 5 defense in the NFL. If you look at their roster, their defense sucks. And then offensively, Justin Jefferson coming off injury. TJ Hawkinson might not even be available at the start of the season. They lost their starting running back. I guess now they got Aaron Jones. Woohoo. He's also coming off injury. We'll have to see what happens with the Vikings, man. And then the Tennessee Titans, I honestly think the Titans could end up being a lot better than they are here, but that all depends on Will Levis. If Will Levis can resonate with all these pieces that the Tennessee Titans have gotten, such as Calvin Ridley, then I think that the Tennessee Titans could actually be a lot better and be a 9-8 team, maybe even a sneaky playoff team. But all their young talent has to resonate and has to come together. New York Giants and the Chargers are the next two teams. The Giants are a team that honestly, they have some pieces, man. They just traded for Brian Burns, who's going to be big on that defensive line. They still have Sexy Dexy. They got Deonte Banks last season, so that defense has pieces. But offensively, man, that offensive line is still atrocious. Their weapons, they got Malik Neighbors. He's going to be really good, but they also still got Danny Dimes. Just a bad roster. Has some star pieces, has some potential, but the Giants are still a year or two away, man. And then Chargers are rounding out the below average here. I don't think they're bad enough to be in the #1 pick contention. I don't think the Chargers are going to be good. But now they got Harbaugh there. They have much better coaching. I think their roster is a lot better than their record shows last year. A lot of people got hurt. They still have Herbert, a top 10 quarterback. He's not going to have anyone to throw the damn ball to, but the Chargers are going to be running it a lot anyways. Chargers could honestly end up being a lot better than where they are here, but again, just that defense has constantly been underachieving. Maybe coaching is going to fix it. And then finally here, we got our #1 pick contention, the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. At number 28, I got the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals had a really good draft. I really love their draft and all the young talent they brought in. Didn't sign like anyone that I can really think of in free agency. Had a very underwhelming free agency. I think they're looking to be a 1 year away team where they have another bad season this year, get another top 5, top 10 pick, use that on maybe another weapon or to continue to develop that offensive line, even a defensive piece, sign a bunch of guys in free agency, and truly take a step forward next year. They got Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best wide receiver prospects in the last 10 years. Cardinals are super young, and if they can develop, they can be a much better team than this, but they have so many holes on that team, and those young talents need to develop fast. Next, I got the Patriots at 29. Patriots are such an average team. Like, they have some good players still. They still have Jabril Peppers. They still have Matthew Judon. They have some decent players on that defense. Offensively, they got better. They got 2 stud wide receivers in the draft. Their offensive line's still good. Ramondre Stevenson was hurt last year. He's coming back. Quarterback play, massive upgrade with Jacoby Brissett and Drake May over Mac Jones. So their quarterback plays better. They're still going to be a bottom 5 team. They're still going to suck, but they're better than last year a little bit. They improved. And then our bottom 3 teams here, Commanders, Broncos, Panthers. The Commanders had like the worst offseason in NFL history, I think. They signed a bunch of guys, big money, to try to compete, and I just don't think it's going to work out. They gave Bobby Wagner a contract. You really think you just had the 2nd worst record in NFL history, or in the NFL last season, and you think you're going to just be able to compete next season? That rarely happens. Rarely happens. The Commanders drafted Jaden Daniels. He thinks he's going to be the next CJ Stroud, which I don't see at all. Who knows? They didn't address that offensive line, literally the 2nd worst offensive line in the league last year. Did basically nothing to address it. Weapons, you still got Terry McLaurin, I guess. You got Jahan Dotson. Not too much behind that. If you really think Austin Eckler is going to save your run game, sue me, I guess. And that defense they blew up, and that defense is still complete trash, and they replaced it with a bunch of older free agents that had to fork out way too much money, too. Broncos at 31. gutted their entire team. It was much needed. They got some young talent in the draft, but this Broncos team's going to suck. You look at their team, good God, it's bad. It's either going to be Bo Nix or Jared Stidham starting at quarterback. Weapons-wise, Courtland Sutton's their best weapon, and he's maybe a top 25 wide receiver. They don't have a true star running back. Javonte Williams has been rumored to be cut. Defensively, they got nobody besides Patrick Surtain. He's a top 5 corner in the league, but so what? He'll be able to cover one of the 11 offenders. You still got 10 guys going around and 10 guys on defense and won't be able to do shit against them. Finally, the Carolina Panthers. They were the worst team in the league last year. This year, they lost Brian Burns, their best defender. They forked over way too much money for Robert Hunt to play guard for him. They got Xavier Legette, who I don't think is going to be that good of a wide receiver, but even if he is, how much did that truly upgrade your wide receiver core? Panthers sucked last year, didn't do too much to improve this year, and they literally lost their best defender and only got a second-round pick for him. Anyways, guys, this video has been super long. Sorry about that. Just wanted to give my thoughts on all these teams, my way too early power ranking. Maybe I'll do another power ranking like when the Hall of Fame game starts. We'll see. So guys, let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.